Are you there? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Sri Sadev.
पुष्पसरं नवभावधरं नवलस्य परं नवहास्यकरं नवहेमवरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं नवगौरवरं नवपुष्पसरं नवभावधरं नवलास्यपरं नवहास्यकरं नवहेमवरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् नवप्रेमयुतं नवनीतशुचं नववेशकृतं नवप्रेमरसं नवधाविलसशुभप्रेममयं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं नवप्रेमयुतं नवनीतशुचं नववेशकृतं नवप्रेमरसं नवधाविलसशुभप्रेममयं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् हरिभक्ति परं हरिनामधरं करजाप्यकरं हरिनाम परं नयने सततं प्रणयाश्रुधरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं हरिभक्ति परं हरिनामधरं करजाप्यकरं हरिनाम परं नयने सततं प्रणयाश्रुधरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् सततं जनता भवतापहरं परमार्थपरायण लोकगतिं नवलेहकरं जगतापहरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं सततं जनता भवतापहरं परमार्थपरायण लोकगतिं नवलेहकरं जगतापहरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् निज भक्ति करम प्रिय चारुतरम नटनर्तन नागर राजकुलम कुलकामिनी मानसलास्य करम प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम निज भक्ति करम प्रिय चारुतरम नटनर्तन नागर राजकुलम कुलकामिनी मानसलास्य करम प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम करतालवलं कलकण्ठरवं मृदुवाद सुवीनकया मधुरं निज भक्ति गुणावृत नाट्यकरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं करतालवलं कलकण्ठरवं मृदुवाद्य सुवीनकया मधुरं निज भक्ति गुणावृत नाट्यकरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् युगधर्मयुतं पूर्णानन्दसुतं धरणीषु भवभाव
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to His confounder, Acharya, His Divine Grace, Laisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. We welcome you today to our special Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today is the beginning of the week, Monday, the 24th of June, 2024. We're fortunate to have our senior uncle, brother, and father in our spiritual life, His Grace ADVAITA KRISHNA Prabhu, who has graciously honored our invitation for today's class. So, ADVAITA KRISHNA Prabhu, we welcome you to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. So, Prabhuji, if you are ready, I'll put the verse on the screen and we can start.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
I can chant Mangalacharan meanwhile, yeah?
Yes, you can chant. I'm putting the verse on the screen.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Sapatantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurung Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Dham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalvataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shannavadi Paschatadeshadarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Tantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So we can have the verse up there. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Jaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhiraye. Nastapriyeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So today's verse is third canto, chapter 1, entitled Questions by Vidura. And today's text is text 9. Okay. Yada cha partha prahita sabhayam jagad gururyani jagad krishnaha Natani Pongsam Amritayanani Rajorune me Shatapunyaleshaha. I do the word meaning. Yada, when. Cha, also. Partha Prahitaha, being advised by Arjuna. Shabhayam, in the assembly. Jagad Guruhu, the teacher of the world. Yani, those. Jagada, went. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Na, never. Tani, such words. Pungsam, of all men of sense. Amrita ayanani, as good as nectar. Raja, the king, Dhritarashtra, O Duryodhana. Guru, very important. Mene, did consider. Shata, dwindling. Punyaleshaha, fragment of highest acts. Translation. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for the others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king Dhritarashtra, or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. Go to the purport. Lord Krishna, who is the spiritual master of the entire universe, accepted the duty of a messenger and, deputed by Arjuna, went to the assembly of King Dhritarashtra on a peace mission. Krishna is everyone's Lord, yet because he was a transcendental friend of Arjuna, he gladly accepted the role of messenger, exactly like an ordinary friend. That is the beauty of the Lord's behavior with his pure devotees. He reached the assembly and spoke about peace, and the message was relished by Bhishma and other great leaders because it was spoken by the Lord himself. But due to the exhaustion of the pious results of their past deeds, Duryodhana, or his father Dhritarashtra, did not take the message very seriously. That is the way of persons who have no credit or pious deeds. By past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country. But because the result of the pious acts of Duryodhana and company were dwindling, it became evident from the actions that they were sure to lose the kingdom to the Pandavas. The message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it is like the opposite to the non-devotees. Sugar candy is always sweet to a healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to persons suffering from jaundice. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, in this chapter, questions by Vidura, this is laying a very beautiful section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto. And Vidura wanted to give advice to Dhritarashtra, and he was invited for consultation because he was a prime minister in the royal household of the of the Kuru dynasty, of the Kuru kingdom, and he was asked to come for consultation. But then in the next few verses, 5 or 6 verses, it is described how he was completely rejected. His advice was rejected. So when he entered the house, M gave instructions which were exactly to the point. Now his advice is actually very well known. His advice is very, very well known, and it is called Vidhuraniti. So Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly of the spiritual master. He was sent by Krishna himself. Why? Because it was not possible for these people to accept any good advice. So when Krishna was sent to the home of Dhritarashtra, his words were not very well received. Why it wasn't very well received? Because they had lost all the last iota of pious credits. They had been involved in so many impious acts, irreligious acts, grossly sinful acts that has destroyed all their piety. So there's many things in this verse. First, Krishna is talked upon as being the Vishwaguru, the spiritual master of the entire universe. It's a term that we are being thrown around a lot. And Krishna sometimes does act as a spiritual master. There's a particular point also we will later study in maybe chapter 15, in the third canto, when Lord Vishnu wanted to act as a spiritual master of the 4 Kumaras, and therefore he arranged for them to come up to the 7th gate of Vaikuntha, and he instructed them in pure devotional service. And here, Krishna wanting to act as a spiritual master, because when he went to the assembly of the Kuru, he went on a peace mission. He went as a Shanti Dut. Just like we see in modern day, so many people are going here and there to one country to another to appease the opponent and to come to some kind of an agreement for peace. And here there was a proposal of war, but Arjuna, he thought, let's make an arrangement to avoid this war. And therefore, when Krishna went to the house of the Kuru, he was speaking very, very nicely. And he was speaking in such a nice way that for the devotee, his words were completely nectar. Because they had no hidden agenda. They were actually pure souls. The example is given of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev was a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, and he was in the Dasharas. He was the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so was Vidura. Vidura was also situated in Dasyaras. So because this section is questioned by Vidura, Vidura is going to be asking questions and so on. So they were completely unable to accept the very wonderful discussions, the wonderful presentation of Sri Krishna. Why? Because they had lost all pious credits. So even if someone doesn't have any good disposition towards spirituality, towards religiosity, no matter how much qualified the person is, yeah, he will not be able to accept any good advice. No matter how qualified materially they may be, all this good advice will be just like water under the bridge. It will have no effect. Water on a dog's back, like they say, it will have no effect. So both of these persons, Dhritarashtra and his son Duryodhana, did not take the words of Krishna very seriously. So how do we what is a good fortune that we get, that we actually take the words of Krishna seriously? Either it is directly spoken by him in the Gita, or it is indirectly spoken by his pure devotees or his devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam and other places. How is it possible that we take the instructions of Krishna seriously? This is by good fortune only. This is only by good fortune. Krishna cannot oblige anyone. Krishna cannot force anyone to take his words very serious, to take his words seriously. He does say what he has to say, like he spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita. But it is left up to the, even left up to Arjuna. He says in the end, he said to Arjuna, he said, I have given you everything. He said, this is one of my best discourses, Paramam Vacha. Now you may deliberate and you act accordingly. Krishna doesn't force anyone. And this is a very interesting point, because generally in some religious systems, we tend to think that the words of God ought to be followed completely to the last hyphen and dot on the I. But actually, Krishna, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, was questioned. He was, in a way, he was questioned nicely. You can even say he was challenged at a certain point. He's saying, why are you speaking like this? You're saying this and you're not understanding this, and so on and so forth. So there's very free movement of ideas in Vedic culture. There's a very wonderful free movement of ideas, free movement of choice in the Vedic culture. And therefore here, even though the Supreme Lord has come, there's no force. There is no force. There is no, okay, you have to follow, otherwise I'll kill you. Krishna gave his advice freely. He gave his advice what he thought would be good. And even though Krishna, he may influence someone's attitude to accept things positively, he did not do so. He did not do so. Because actually the jiva is completely independent, and then they can do what they want. So another point here is said that Krishna is everyone's Lord, yet because he was a transcendental friend of Krishna. Why he was a transcendental friend of Krishna? Because he was actually situated in Sakyaras. He had a wonderful relationship with the Supreme Lord as his friend. And they sat together, they walked together, they played together, they ate together, and they enjoyed together. And then also, like they were in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it was arranged that they would fight, and Krishna would be his advisor and his friend. Krishna had taken many positions. Krishna has taken the position of charioteer many times for the Pandava brothers. And one famous opportunity to see Krishna as a charioteer is definitely in the Bhagavad Gita. Then Krishna, he acts as a secretary, Sachiv. And sometimes Krishna acts as a messenger, Duta. And sometimes Krishna also acts as a security man, as a watchman, when they would be sleeping at night after the battlefield in the midst of the battlefield, Krishna would be standing guard. So if you, and we can also remember Vamanadev standing as guard in Sutalapuri at the gate of Bali Maharaj, whereas he had neglected Indra and he had gone to even the lower planetary system and to become the guardsman at the gate of Vamanadev. So Krishna can take all these seemingly service position, but that is because he is reciprocating with his devotees. Prabhupada is writing, that is the beauty of the Lord's behavior with his pure devotees. We see that over and over again. Because in the ultimate sense, we need to come to a platform where we have a genuine and sweet relationship with Krishna based on any one of the 5 rasas. And when we have a relationship with Krishna as a friend, or we can have the relationship with Krishna as parent, we can have a relationship with Krishna as servant, and so on and so forth. So when Krishna was there in the assembly of the Kurus, and he was as a Shantidut, as a peace envoy, he was speaking very nicely. But his message was only relished by those who were inclined to him in terms of being a devotee. Yeah, but Duryodhana, he could not accept anything. So because their pious activities were completely exhausted. In Bhagavad Gita also this is explained, no? Yeshwata antagata papam jananam punya karmanam. Unless one's sinful activities, where's that verse? Let me find it. Unless one's sinful activities, quota of sinful activities is exhausted, one cannot take to anything to do with devotional service. Yeshwata antagata papam. Yeah, 728. Let me read that verse. Okay. So, unless one is able to reduce the quota of sinful activities, their heart is not purified enough to accept. So, in 728, Krishna says, Yeshatam antagatam papam janana punya karmanam te dvanda moha vinirmukta bhajante mam vridavrata. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated or freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So how do someone become free? How can someone become free of the past sinful acts? Many ways one can become free of past sinful acts, right? And Narottam Das Thakur writes, Gangara parasa hoile paschate pavan. If we actually bathe in the Ganges, we can be purified. But Tumara darshane karo, pavitra tumara gun. But if we actually meet the pure devotee, we can be purified much easier. So there's many ways we can be purified from our sinful acts. We can be purified by Sukriti. Here it's Krishna, Prabhupada is speaking about the pious deeds, pious credits. And if one's past pious credit is there, one can become highly elevated, materially speaking. But also, when one meets a pure devotee, one sinful acts can be eradicated. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Koi Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoi. Lava Matra means 1/11th of a second association with a pure devotee can purify us. And sometimes we wonder, what made it so easy for devotees in the West to take to Krishna consciousness? It was that one factor. They met with a pure devotee. And obviously they had possibly also accumulated a lot of pious credits. But no matter what type of pious credits you have accumulated, our devotional service cannot be kick-started without the association of a pure devotee. So sometimes we may wonder, how do we come to Krishna consciousness? We were just like any other ordinary Joe in the world, but we came to Krishna consciousness. It is possible that we have actually had, in this verse, Prabhupada is explaining a little bit of that, right? So it is said that those who have acted piously and who has conquered sinful reactions can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the platform of pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what are those pious acts? What category of pious acts brings us to devotional service? Here, Duryodhan had exhausted all his pious acts. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, if I remember, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, I think it's text 45, if you can put it up there, if you can get. It is explained that there's three types of pious credits, three types of Sukriti, 2245, Madhya Lila. And the one type of pious activities or pious credits or spiritual credits that we can have is give us position to material advancement, which is called Karman Unmukhi Sukriti. Can you get that verse, Prabhu? Madhya Lila 2245. 2245, just go Madhya Lila 2045. I think, yeah. Someone's looking? Yeah. Yes, okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay, go down, go down. Yes. Gekona bhagya karo samsara kshayan mukhahaya sadhu sange kavi Krishna rati upachaya. Go down, Prabhuji. Yeah, okay. By good fortune, one becomes eligible to cross the ocean of nations, and when one term of material existence decreases, one may get an opportunity to associate with pure devotees. By such association, one's attraction to Krishna is awakened. So another element is brought in here is unless one gets the association of a pure devotee, one cannot actually get the attraction for Krishna to be awakened, which is what we call pure devotional service or devotional service. So what is this bhagya? What is this good fortune? This good fortune is called Sukriti. This good fortune is called Sukriti. And Jiva Dharma Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained this point. Can you go down? Go down. Yes. He says, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained this point. In this Bhagya fortune, the result of an accident or something else, is it? So, like, if we consider when Srila Prabhupada went to America in 1965, was it an accident or something else that these devotees immediately started to take up to Krishna consciousness, having not had a millimeter, an iota of advancement in devotional life since their birth, that suddenly 20-year-old, 30, 40-year-old men or ladies started to take to the process of devotional service like ducks, like duck to water. So the explanation is here. And in the case of Duryodhan, he is going the other way. He's going minus, minus, minus. And devotees come to the platform of increasing their pious activities. And here it is explained, pious activities can be divided into three categories. Pious activities that awaken one's dormant Krishna consciousness called Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. Pious activities that best to material opulence are called Bhogan Mukhi Sukriti or Karan Mukhi Sukriti. It's the same. Karan Mukhi from karma. And pious activities that enable the living entity to merge into the existence of Supreme is called Mokshan Mukhi Sukriti or Gyanan Mukhi Sukriti. So let me explain this. So we know, sometimes we wonder, how do we come to Krishna consciousness? So the pious credits are Agyata Sukriti, unknowingly performing devotional service. Unknowingly performing devotional service was also the case of Prahlad Maharaj from his previous life. So Prahlad Maharaj in his previous life had a lady he was associated with, and it was a day was Nashinga Chaturdasi, and he had gone to that old temple and to be with his girlfriend. And then on that day they had cleaned the place. They had cleaned the place. before doing the evil, whatever they were doing. And because that was the day was Chaturdashi, it is explained that he actually managed to get a lot of spiritual credit. Now, let us ask a question. If that wasn't a temple of Lord Vishnu, or it was some other place which was not related to Lord Vishnu, but some worship of some demigods or other deities in the modes of material nature, what did that amount to? If we give a donation for constructing a Vishnu temple, or we give some donation for distributing for some welfare activities in hospitals and welfare activities in villages, or to help people in their material distress, what does that amount to? If it is connected to vis-a-vis Krishna, it is connected to the Supreme Lord, it is connected to devotional service, it's connected to Vishnu Tattva. Anything we do pious in relationship to that, or religious or spiritual in relationship to that, is called Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. Means that Sukriti, pious deeds, vis-a-vis or in connection with Bhakti. Now, if you do certain activities which looks like pious activities, doing some pious deed like opening a hospital or giving food to some poor people, which is not in any way connected to Krishna. I'm not saying prasadam, I'm saying just food. Then that is actually karma unmukhi sukriti, which means that it is fruitive activities, but they are nevertheless pious and may lead us to go up to the heavenly planets. And the third category of unmukhi sukriti is a jnana unmukhi sukriti, which means that knowledge, or by which we can enter into the field of acquiring transcendental knowledge, which will actually eradicate our sins. Because knowledge does eradicate our sins. The knowledge of us being jiva and all living beings also being jiva, this knowledge actually destroys sin. So we can also then become free, and we enter the platform of impersonal liberation, Jnanunmukhi Sukriti. Right? So what is the difference? The difference is we can acquire all these different Sukriti, but anything in relationship to devotional service, when a quota is strong, when the quota is achieved, that becomes an impetus, that becomes a sort of purification of the heart. This is a verse, Yeshotantagata papam jananam punya karmanam. It said that those who have passed their lives in practicing regulatory principles of religion, who have acted piously and have conquered sinful action, can accept devotional service and gradually rise. So if we have done all of that, right, does that make us qualified to come to the platform of devotional service? Not if it is karma unmukhi sukriti, not if it is jnana unmukhi sukriti, not if it is pious acts in relationship to jnana, not if it is pious acts in relationship to material fruitive advancement. It is only when it is related to bhakti, like Prahlad Maharaj cleaning the temple, inadvertently, unknowingly cleaning the temple of Nrsingadev. And examples are also given in Chaitanya Charitamrita as one example. Prakashananda Saraswati, he was an impersonalist, but his dealings with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very nice. He was very, very nice with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada explained that gave him this piety, this sukriti, that he could actually turn into a proper devotee. And also the other example is given of Ajamil. Ajamil was calling his son Narayan, Narayan this, Narayan that. And it was in complete ignorance of the Supreme Lord. He was calling his son. He was just calling his son, Narayan, come and eat. Narayan, come and do this. Prabhupada explained like this. But then this amounted to Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. This amounted to devotional activity, even though it was unknowingly done. So unknowingly is a general word, Agyata Sukriti. So Agyata Sukriti in the context of devotional activity, unknowingly. Right? But even then you can acquire so much Agyata Sukriti in relationship to devotional service. This one element is required to kickstart our devotional service, and that is a good fortune of association of a pure devotee. So, like I was giving the example of devotees in the West, they may have had previous life where they had acquired a lot of pious activities. And you can see by the rate of the advancement when they meet Srila Prabhupada that they were not ordinary people. They were those who had performed devotional service of some type or the other. And when they meet Srila Prabhupada, then immediately the fire of devotional service is lit, and then they go completely like a rocket. Because so no matter how much pious credits you have, whether devotional, mainly devotional we're talking about, you have to have a devotee that lights it up. Whereas if you have pious credit in relationship to fruitive activities or karmic activities, it doesn't necessarily give you a start for devotional life. But what it does, it reduces the burden on the heart. It reduces the burden on the heart because yesho tantagata papam. And therefore, one can engage with some determination in spiritual activity. But the association of a devotee is always required. And Prakashananda Saraswati, he was in Gyan platform, but the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his nice dealing with him, kick-started that process. And like I said, also the example of Ajamil, the example of Ajamil. So you can see that this devotional service is always something we get by the association of a devotee if you're favorably disposed. Duryodhana was not favorably disposed. He was getting the association of Vidura, but he was inimical towards him. And Vidura was Yamaraj incarnation. He was kind of a Mahajan. He had incredible, quota of piety, spiritual piety in him. He becomes the person who asks questions to Maitreya over 5 cantos, Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're studying from 3rd canto onwards to like 7th canto. It is actually Vidura who asks questions to Maitreya Rishi. And then come also the question of Maitreya Rishi also. Maitreya Rishi was a mixed devotee in the beginning. Maitreya Rishi came from the platform of Jnana, and he was more connected to the Kumara Sampradaya. But Maitreya Rishi, interestingly, when Sri Krishna Lord Krishna had given instruction to Uddhava and he had left Dwarka, and he was preparing himself to end his pastimes, and he's gone to Prabhas Kshetra. And he was sitting under this young banyan tree. And he was preparing to end his pastimes, but he was followed by Uddhava, because Uddhava could not stay without Krishna. And he was kind of broken-hearted, and he followed Krishna up to there. And when Krishna saw him, he said, "Why did you come?" And then he started asking questions to Lord Sri Krishna. And therefore, Krishna gave the Uddhava Gita to Uddhava at that time. But while this was going on, and we can read that a little bit later, there's some purport. While this was going on, Maitreya Rishi walked in on the conversation. And Prabhupada explained that because of his past pious activities, he got the opportunity to come into that conversation. And he was just by arrangement of Krishna or by an arrangement of his past, devotional pious activities. And he was a mixed devotee, but he was a very famous sage, and he had the ability to present knowledge in a wonderful way. Some people say that he was Krishna's favorite sage in a way. So then Krishna instructed him indirectly by instructing Uddhava, and he heard the whole conversation. And later on, this is also an example of Agyata Sukriti. He unknowingly just came in, and then he was given this wonderful ability to hear the conversation between Krishna and Uddhava. So this is one. Prakashananda Saraswati is one who was in Jnana. And Ajmil was one who was in fruitive activities, and he had neglected all his devotional activities, and he was calling his son. So these people were all converted because of huge amount of stock of Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. For Prakashananda Saraswati, he was very nice to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was coming from the platform of Jnana. And for Maitreyaji, he was in contact with Uddhava and Krishna himself directly at this place called Prabhasha. And for Ajamil, he was chanting the holy name of Narayan without knowing. So therefore, you know, this association is one thing, right? Is probably the most important thing. But having accumulated some strong agyata sukriti and then get the association of a devotee. But this was not happening, no, for Duryodhan. It was not happening at all for Duryodhan because he was inimical. So we have to be pratikul. We have to be anukul, not pratikul. You know, he was unfavorably disposed towards Krishna. So it is said here, Duryodhan or his father did not take the message very seriously. So nothing was going in their heart because they had no credit. They had no pious deeds. And the past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country, or because the result of the past pious acts, Duryodhan and company were dwindling. So their pious credit was dwindling. It was completely going the other end. So it became evident from their actions that they were sure to lose their kingdom to the Pandavas. So when someone is going on the path of decreasing piety and is constantly on the going towards the other directions, you know, away from religiosity, away from piety, then ultimately they will come to a certain level, they will come to some downfall. They will come to some downfall if they're willfully going on that path. So Duryodhana was definitely willfully going on that path. He was offending the devotees, he was offending Krishna, he wanted to imprison him. He definitely offended Draupadi, who was a very pious lady, definitely offended Kunti, definitely offended the Pandavas, Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was a dharma personified. Definitely he offended the whole Pandava clan. So even though the actions were so heinous, if they had at some point turned, if they had at some point became favorably disposed, but that was not to be. So the message of Krishna was not heard by these sinful persons because they were just opposite to devotees, they were non-devotees. So even though the words of Krishna were like nectar, for them it was like poison. And we will see also later when Vidura was speaking, he was insulted, so heavily insulted. Why he was heavily insulted? Because, you know, they had no ability to appreciate that he was speaking in their favor. And when someone is very steeped in sin, they cannot accept. They cannot accept these things. So you may think, how is this world going to change? This world is going to change because of devotees. At one point, Srila Prabhupada said, and these wars are happening because it's not the demons trying to fight the demons. The acceleration of the degradation in society or the downfall of economic culture in society is because devotees are chanting Hare Krishna. The devotees are constantly chanting Hare Krishna. The devotees are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, distributing books, studying Bhagavad Gita. They are, you know, chanting the holy name in every street, in every town in the world. Then actually this thing is going to go on. These demons going to fight demons. And then there's going to be some kind of a clearing stage. So this chanting of the holy name, this movement, the Hare Krishna movement, the Sankirtan movement, this Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada says, is giving this opportunity of Agyata Sukriti, pious credits, to everyone, even non-deserving. And therefore is being the good the sukriti is being created. And when they actually favorably meet a devotee, they can meet devotees that will definitely purify their sinful acts, purify their sinful heart. Just meeting one pure devotee for a split of a second can completely eradicate all the sinful acts. This is the value of a pure devotee. So there will definitely be advancement. But Krishna is arranging these wars and all of that because Krishna wants to get rid of people's sinful acts. And the devotees are giving, impetus for devotional service. Because devotional service is independent, bhakti is independent, and it cannot be had by any of these pious things. But it helps to have this pious sukriti, this bhakti unmukhi sukriti, these pious acts in relationship to devotional service. And then when you meet a devotee, then it can be lit and one can advance in devotional life. So it's very important that we act properly, we act in piety, we act religiously, we act nicely. Just like even Prakashananda Saraswati was an impersonalist, he acted very nicely with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that was his special favor. So how do we preach to people like Duryodhan? No, we give them some prasadam. There's so many Duryodhans, so many Kali Chelas, we give them prasadam. Even they are unwilling, the Harinam is coming, they will hear the holy name of Krishna. Even unwilling, someone is pushing a book in their hand, they are touching Srimad Bhagavatam, which is non different than Krishna, and so on and so forth. So the devotees are really the greatest blessings to this universe because they are bringing this unknowingly, sometimes knowingly to people, people accept, but unknowingly is bringing sukriti, agyata sukriti. And because we are devotees, we are not promoting any kind of fruitive activities, advancement in material life. Because we are devotees or trying to be devotees, we're not promoting any level of impersonalism, voidism, or gyan, or impersonal liberation. We are promoting devotional activity, devotional service. It's the greatest good fortune. And based on that, people will, and we can see people are becoming devotees. So many people are becoming devotees because this, even unknowingly, and most of us, we don't consciously say, okay, we want to become a devotee. Something happens. Some trigger is there that we start to then when we make the conscious decision of associating with devotees. So we get that element of faith. That faith is generally not faith based on grounded knowledge in Shastra. That faith is because, oh, it looks nice, it seems good, so let me go for it. And that is Golokya Shraddha. Shraddha based on some external material element, good, nice, wonderful, this and that. And then we have some faith, we go to the temple, we appreciate, or maybe some philosophy that triggers some kind of a thought process in our intelligence, we become jigyasu, we become inquisitive, these things happen, and then we take on to Krishna consciousness, right? We take to the process of Krishna consciousness. But then when we become really seriously dedicated to the process, we accept the association of devotees as one condition for advancement. Then we advance willfully, we advance according to Vaidhi Bhakti, we advance according to our strength of our practice. But it is kickstarted by Akyata Sukriti. Or Duryodhan, he is going the other way. He's losing everything. So he's going to be killed. He's going to lose everything. Devotee is going this way. We're going to get more and more auspicious blessings, both materially and spiritually. Sometimes you may think, how materially, Prabhuji? Because if we have desire for material advancement and we're practicing devotional service, we will get material credits. We will get the effect of material credits. And if we do not want material benefits, we're advancing in devotional service, we're practicing devotional life, and we do not want anything material, we will get pure devotional service. But many among us may want a good life. We will get that as a result of devotional service. It's nothing Krishna will give. And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, who's reading also the Prachetas, they were almost pure devotees. They came in association with Lord Shiva, who taught them the Rudra Gita. They went on meditating for a long period of time, and then afterwards they became very purified. And Lord Vishnu came and gave them darshan. And then Lord Vishnu said, okay, you can all marry and you can have a very wonderful life. And then you can also have pure devotional service in the end. Probably that's a mix that most devotees want, right? We all want to live very nicely, materially happy, and then at the end get Krishna, but it's not one plan that fits all. So this is a very simple message, right? We need to hear Krishna Katha from devotees. We don't need to be like Duryodhan. We need to be open-hearted and appreciate the beautiful pastimes of Krishna, whatever Krishna is doing, like sugar candy. It is very sweet. Even in the beginning, it may seem hard work, making a paradigm shift in our life. You're so used to material consciousness, material life, material activities. Now we have to live a life of sacrifice. A life of sacrifice may sound bitter, but whatever is bitter in the beginning is sweet in the end. Just like jaundice. Sugar is bitter in the beginning, but it is very sweet when the jaundice is cured. It's the last word Srila Prabhupada puts in the purport. Thank you. We stop here. A simple reading of this purport. Hare Krishna. Randarada Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. See many names in front of me. Varaha Prabhu is here. Shalika Prabhu is here. Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such beautiful Krishna Katha. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, realizations, comments, you may use the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak or ask your question. Chakra Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandava Pranam.
Haribol.
All glory to Guru, all glory to you. Now glory
Hare
to the
Krishna Prabhu.
company. Yeah, my question is about these pious activities that we accumulate.
You got muted.
Yes.
Okay. We can hear you, Chakra Prabhu. You might have to fix your audio. Yeah, your microphone, I should say. Well, Prabhuji, while we wait for the Chakra Prabhu to fix. Okay, good. Yes.
Can you,
yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, about this question of pious accumulation of pious activities. We hear over and over again that Srila Prabhupada came to the West and just by his presence, he was able to affect a lot of people who were drawn into devotional service. And when you read this, when you were relating this issue of Drodana.
Muted. Chakra Prabhu muted again. It seems somebody is calling you on your phone. That's usually the case.
Yeah, hello?
Yes. Yeah.
So when we hear this issue about Drodana, Drodana was in contact with all these exalted devotees. Vidu, Bhishmadev, and even Krishna himself. So does that mean that if somebody is not like favorable at all in when he come in contact with a pure devotee, when the person is not favorable, does that mean the person doesn't gain nothing, no pious study at all? That is my question.
I mean, the cases that we hear in the past times that we are reading, it's also Leela. It's also Leela, like Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra is definitely acting like a rascal, but even in the beginning of Mahabharata, he lists everything that Krishna did because he knew about it. That's one way to look at it. Krishna is trying to use his different Leelas to teach us. They're not exactly on this absolute nonsensical platform, some of them. They're not like completely mundane creatures, but they're actually Krishna is using them to educate us in the platform of devotional service. But at the same time, yes, you're right. If someone is unfavorably disposed, then that may not, the purification may not happen. And we see that in the case of even Ravana, or in the case of Hiranyakashipu, and they were not purified, and they carried on to this lila is there, and they carried on to the third life, where Jai, first he became Hiranyakashipu, then he became Ravana, then he becomes Shishupal. But when he becomes Shishupal, when someone is killed by Krishna, then that is a different thing. When someone is killed directly by Krishna, then he actually attained the highest perfection, but not necessarily when you don't have the right understanding. Like in Shastra, it is explained that Hiranyakashipu, he never thought Nrsingadev to be an incarnation of Vishnu. He had no right understanding. And therefore, he carried on to the next life. When he appeared Ajay, he became Hiranyakashipu, then he became Lord. He became Ravana. When he became Ravana, his wife told him that it may be that you're dealing with the Supreme Lord. And he thought maybe, but I'm not so sure. He may be just a king, a powerful king. So he carried on dealing with Lord Ram as if he was just an ordinary powerful king, even though he had an inkling that it may be. So there was some progress, but he was killed. But then when he was insulting Krishna, this is a nice example. When he was insulting Krishna as Shishupal, Krishna was counting his insult. Right? When he had promised the king of Chedi, which was Shishupal, and he was counting his insult, and when he had reached 100, then he killed him. But the narration is given, Narad Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Yudhishthir Maharaj is stunned. He said, how come? Such a rascal, always insulting Krishna. He attained the lotus feet of Krishna because he was killed by Krishna. He was killed by Krishna. Now, the another thing is, all these warriors who was killed in the presence of Krishna, and one can read, even in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains this. One is killed in the presence of Krishna, they all attain moksha. They all attain moksha. So that's one way to look at it. So they are acquiring pious credits, but they're not willfully practicing devotional service. Why? Because this devotional service, this business of devotional service, is actually kick-started by a devotee, and he had no inclination to appreciate the devotees. So you may get all these pious credits, but if you have no inclination to appreciate the devotee, it will not kickstart. So no amount of pious association, good association will kickstart devotional service in your life. And that is a case of Duryodhana. He was associating with Krishna, he was associating with Vyasadeva, who was his grandfather. Vyasadeva was his grandfather. And he was associating with Narad Muni was coming to the palace. Pulastya Rishi was coming to the palace. And all these great sages, all the elite of the universe were coming to visit the Kaurava home, house, the royal household, but didn't make any difference to him because he was not favorably disposed. Yeah. So if you're inimical, nothing will happen. Right? Maybe in some other life, but if you carry on being inimical and your tendency is in this way inclined, how can you become a devotee? But if you're neutral, then you let your agyata sukriti work, then you have to be favorably disposed, right? So Hiranyakashipu was not favorably disposed. Ravana was not favorably disposed. But Shishupal was also not favorably disposed. But he had the good fortune of meeting Krishna. That makes a difference. I don't know whether I answered your question. Yeah.
Like 5 points. Yeah, it's okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Sorry, you're on the phone. I apologize.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a question about the example you gave about credits, like security. And you made reference to Ajamil, how Ajamil was calling his son, Narayan, get me this, do that. So by constantly calling on the names of his son, Narayan, he was accumulating credits. Now my question is, if Ajamil had named his son, Narayan, as something like, say, Sukriti, some devotees are called Sukriti. Some devotees are called maybe Sunil. Now, if Ajamil had named his child a name like Sukriti and kept calling on the name Sukriti, last point when he was almost living his breath of life and called on Sukriti, would he have been saved? And if he would not have been saved, then my question would be, why then would our spiritual masters sometimes, initiation-wise, give us names that are not directly Krishna's names?
Mm. Mm. Well, there's two categories of name of Krishna. There's primary category of name of Krishna, which describes Krishna's personality itself. This is the names like Govinda, Gopal, Krishna, Hari, and so on. And the second category of name of Krishna is the names which indicate his pastimes, which is Govardhandhari, Girivaradhari, and so on and so forth, and Vrindavan Chandra and so on. So if you're chanting these names, you will get purified. Now, I'm not sure if you're chanting it. Sukriti is a word meaning pious credits. If you're chanting pious credits every day, I'm not sure you're going to get purified by this because it is just a Sanskrit word. If you're chanting Krishna, if you're chanting Jashoda or the name of the pure devotees, then that is something. But if you're chanting just a name which is an adjective, and adjective meaning pious or adjective meaning anything, say for example, you call it Drida Vratadas, Drida Vratadas, one who has strong vows.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Well, because I was thinking, my wife's name is Loka, and I'm always calling Loka. I don't know if I'm getting any credit from calling my wife's name Loka, but if I keep calling like Varaha, that is a name of Krishna. I mean, like even if I call Chakra, that is also paraphernalia that Krishna uses. So
that's good, yeah. Hari Chakra is good.
Yeah, but Loka, I don't know. Tirtha, I don't know. So that's why I asked. And I think, I don't know, maybe...
Prabhupada actually did Prabhupada put names that was not related to Krishna? Don't know. I can't fathom. Prabhupada, did he name anyone?
I think so. There are lots of Srila Prabhupada disciples that have names that are not Krishna's primary or secondary names. They are
Or even a devotee's name. Like
yeah.
Urmila Mataji is, a spiritual name because the wife of Lakshman, spiritual devotee person. I don't know, Malati, spiritual name.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe
Well,
when we
okay.
run out, when they run out of Krishna's name, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I
Okay.
can't run out of Krishna's name. It's unlimited.
Well, thank you for the answer. But if I may follow up with Chakra Prabhu's question, what makes somebody, let's say Duryodhana, of course, we know is a lila, it's a pastime. But Krishna is also teaching us a lesson that sometimes one may even come so close to Krishna and still not take advantage. So the question is, what makes someone not take the advantage of being in Krishna's presence? Even though Krishna is there and he is all powerful, he can do and undo anything, and he is there for everyone. So if Krishna himself is not behind somebody, not surrendering to him or accepting him as the Supreme Lord and relate with him as such, then what could be causing that particular individual who might have come so close to Krishna not take advantage of Krishna?
Yes. I mean, it's a very difficult question. I've pondered upon that question a lot. Maybe we can discuss some pros and cons. If someone has had good association with devotees, has accumulated devotional credits, then association with Krishna will definitely give him an added edge. Now we see in the past times in Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes Krishna comes and then Krishna sends devotees, like in the case of the Prachetas. Krishna came, Lord Vishnu came, they prayed to Lord Vishnu, and then later on Lord Vishnu sends them Lord Narada Muni. And we see such things happening a lot in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, but we also see that sometimes, like in the case of Daksha, in Srimad Bhagavatam, he was very offensive to Lord Shiva, and he was even not very nice to Lord Vishnu in a way. And then he carried on like second, third life to be able to get purified. Right? So if someone is in the mode ignorance, because Krishna doesn't act like all-round, person who is impacting on our spiritual life. For the devotees, he's always impacting on our spiritual life. But for the non-devotees, because they have committed so many sinful acts and they're not predisposed to devotional service, association of Krishna can help, certainly will help, but it doesn't trigger. But the why doesn't also trigger? Because Krishna does not personally distribute devotional service to non-devotees. And he does not even distribute devotional service to devotees, or what to speak of non-devotees, because he is equal to all, Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu. But he allows his devotees to distribute devotional service. So when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are acting as devotees of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and they were asking Jai and Vijay to chant the holy name of Krishna, when Lord Chaitanya wanted to act as a Supreme Lord, get his Chakra Sudarshan and kill Jagai and Madhai, and Lord Nityananda, as a devotee, he stopped, he interrupted Lord Chaitanya. He said, no, you cannot do that. You cannot do that because you come here to propagate. So Lord Chaitanya at this point wanted to act as a Supreme Lord and teach these rascals a lesson. So the point to be taken is that devotees makes it possible for people to take to the path of devotional service. And it is not always necessarily Krishna, even though it is a very derogatory things to describe. it is which one is first, the mercy of Krishna or mercy of the pure devotees. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets the mercy of pure devotee, right? And by the mercy of pure devotees, one gets Krishna. So which one is first? Mercy of Krishna can accumulate lots of sukriti, bhakti sukriti, but the kick-off, the start is done by the devotees. That's my understanding. And it's always like that. The example of Lord Chaitanya himself is given when he was going to Gangadas Tola, to the school where he was a teacher. And he was a student in the beginning, and then he went to the other Nyaya school and he was a teacher. And Narhari Sarkar and Gadadhar Pandit were his classmates in the beginning. And they said, oh, he's such a nice person. He's so intelligent. He's so beautiful. He's so attractive. But if only he can become a devotee. And Lord Chaitanya was a Nyaya Pandit. He was a Pandit as a logician. But then when he went to do his father's funeral in Gaya, in the confluence of the Ganges and the free rivers, then he met his spiritual master, and that's what he changed. So that thing is the constant reminder in every single pastime that it is a pure devotee that causes a transformation based on the agyata sukriti, the pious credits that one have, but the transformation, the lighting up of devotional service is done by the devotees. So association with Krishna, association with Krishna's name, and so on and so forth. Like, for example, if someone is chanting, someone may have a lot of pious credits. And therefore, when the devotional service is lit, they take off like a rocket. But the kickstart is always done by a devotee. So, for example, in one previous life, maybe one of us may have had a lot of spiritual pious, unknowingly pious credits in relationship to devotional service, but it required meeting a pure devotee and taking a strong stand to practice devotional service by the mercy, by the association of the pure devotees that launches us in that direction. And we can take the example of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj himself coming to West Africa. I don't know, many of our friends there, they come from what background in previous lives, but definitely everything started when he came and he brought Srila Prabhupada with him. So that I can say. Now, but we see that Krishna engages in so many pastimes, so the demons are completely inimical towards him. So just by Krishna, and Krishna does say, I do kill. Paritranana sadhunam, he protects the devotees, but he kills the miscreants. So if the miscreants are not killed, they will carry on being rascals even when they meet Krishna. So the fact that he does kill them means that this is one way to end their nonsensical activities. So yeah, I think that Krishna does kill because there's no way to change them. Krishna does arrange the Mahabharata Yuddha because there's no way to change this rascal behavior of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, and his 100 brothers. So he says, let me kill them. And he does say, I kill them. Paritrana sadhanam vinashaya cha duskritam, I kill them. And therefore I remove the burden on the earth. So they don't automatically become devotees just because Krishna is on the planet. They carry on. In fact, they carry on being more vociferous. They become more inimical. And they actually punish, the devotees. And sometimes, I'm thinking maybe this is the right angle to understand it, Prabhu, because sometimes Narad Muni acts in a way to favor the rascal demons. And he does that because he wants Krishna to appear quickly so that he can get rid of them. So sometimes Narad Muni is seen to go and sort of do some poking, he does things like, like he goes to Kamsa and he says, why are you letting this lady go? His son may kill you. And he is trying to increase the venom in the heart of Kamsa, right? So that he accelerates the appearance of Krishna for the benefit of the devotees. But doesn't seem to benefit the rascals, the demons. It's one way to look at it. It's a good reflection. I'm not sure it's a definitive answer.
No, no, thank you. I really love it. I appreciate it, especially the Narada Muni factor. I used to think of Narada Muni as a divine gossiper, but
Oh,
whatever, whatever he does is for the good of the individual.
he's very much, and funny thing is he is very much presented like that, unfortunately,
Hmm,
in the Hindu culture. Narad Muni is very much presented like that. And you know, the newspaper people, the media people
hmm.
in India, I don't know whether you know that, they celebrate the appearance of Narada because they think that they are like
Ah,
Narada, rascals.
ah. Good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because he
Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute after Prabhu is done. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
very well.
All glory, all grace unto your Lord Justice Prabhuji. Nice seeing you again. Thank you very much for your wonderful participation. Something used to give me a serious concern. Are you hearing me, Prabhu?
I
Are
can
you
hear
hearing me
you.
very well?
I
Okay.
can hear you. Yeah.
Yes, we
Your
can hear
accent
you.
is a bit
Okay.
difficult for
So
me, but I can hear you.
okay. So the scripture explains that the absolute truth is realized in three stages: the impersonal Brahma, then Paramatma realization, and then Bhagavan, which is the third stage. But somehow,
Yes.
we have the Christian, the Muslim, or the majority of the people, even though they are religious, but sometimes they are very inimical to Krishna, because someone being an impersonalist, for instance, who believes that the Lord is almighty or the sum total of everything. Now, telling such a person now that Krishna has a form, Krishna is a person, it's always very difficult for them, except especially those of them that are very fanatical, like Christians, like Muslims. To tell them about Krishna, they don't want to take it. To them, it's like blasphemy. So they find it very difficult in terms of preaching, because even some of our family members, they fall into this category. And to preach Christian consciousness to them, to convince them, it's almost impossible,
Yeah.
because there's so much delay there. So how do you go about that? And how do you consider such a contradictory situation? Even though they are religious, but it's difficult for them to get into Christian consciousness or to appreciate devotion.
Well, it's
That's my
same thing
concern.
that, yeah, it is the same thing we've explained. They have to have highest credits. They have to have a Gyata Sukriti. They have to have a certain quota of Agyata Sukriti by the association of advanced devotees, by being given prasadam, by being given, made to hear the holy name, or maybe reading some books, or giving some donation, or inadvertently coming to the temple, or doing some kind of any kind of association with the devotees. Unless people get that, they're impersonalists, like you said. And because of their personalist inclination, they're ingrained to think that God is impersonal. Like you mentioned about that system of religion, God doesn't have a form. Now, this is generally pretty offensive. This is like a very offensive behavior. This is a very offensive behavior. And this behavior means that you, like Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur says, you're cutting Krishna's hands and feet. It's very offensive behavior. Now, the impersonalist and this system of religion where they believe in the impersonal is not quite the same. It's not quite the same. These are actually very Kali Yuga dharmas. The impersonalist, renowned impersonalist, Ashokdev Goswami and the four Kumaras. The impersonalists, they believe, they understand Brahman, they know they are Brahman, they know spiritual substance is Brahman. They know that I am Brahman, I am spirit soul, and Krishna is Brahman. And they think that everything is therefore Brahman, which is true. Everything is Brahman, which is true. But at the same time, they do not go beyond that understanding. They do not go beyond that understanding, they become offensive. Whereas a proper impersonalist person, he understands Krishna as Brahmeti, right? Vadanti tat tattavidas tattam adgyanam advayam Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabdyate. Canto 1, chapter 2, text 11, right? So the supreme absolute truth, the seers of truths has concluded that the supreme absolute truth can be understood in three stages as Brahman, impersonal, and Paramatma. But that Brahman understanding is for Gyanis, who have knowledge that we are not this material body, right? We're not this material body. We are actually not this material body, and they go by the process of negation to come to that understanding. We have nothing to do with the mind, we have nothing to do with the intelligence, we have nothing to do with the ahankar, we have nothing to do with these material elements. We are not any of this. We are Brahman. But these systems of religion, do they have this understanding? We are spirit? No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Why do they otherwise want to preserve the body after death? Because they're actually gross materialists, and on top of that, they decry, they deny the existence of a personal form of the Lord. So it's very offensive. Whereas at least maybe in the other Abrahamic religions, they accept that this maybe God is a person, Dieu le Père, God the Father. And maybe they understand that. And that is a little bit, it's a personalist system of religion where they believe that God is Father, God is this, God is that. That is a little bit more advanced. When God is just nothing and he doesn't have a form, doesn't have anything, that is offensive. So for them, how do you make them devotees? And on top of that, they're inimical to anything that is spiritually associated. They will not take prasad, they will not come to the temple, and they consider every other system of religion to be infidel, and they're grossly antagonistic to this category. Then that is a I can go one step further to say this is a devilish denomination, even explaining the Shastras. They are partaking of the what you call Asurim Bhavam Ashrita. They're taking shelter of the Asurim Bhavam, the demonic nature in the material world. But if some of them have a more pure-hearted approach and simple-hearted approach and open-hearted approach, then I'm not saying everyone is like that, but in general, that's what it is. So yes, it is difficult, but feeding them prasadam, bringing them to the temple, asking them to do some seva indirectly, it is only the mercy of the devotees that will make a constant change. I hope it answers you.
Yes, Prabhu, thank
But
you very much.
understanding impersonalism properly from that thing you quoted, 1 to 11, we have to understand that. Because Srila Prabhupada has been so vociferous against impersonalism, but not against impersonalism. Be careful. He has been very vociferous against Mayavadi. Mayavadis and impersonalism, there's a difference. Mayavadis, they think everything is Maya. God cannot have a form because all forms of Maya. No, it's not like that. God can have a form that is not Maya. So the Mayavadis, they're basically Mayavadis. They're not impersonalists. Yeah. So the Mayavadi means on top of believing God doesn't have a form, they decry everything in relationship to the guna. Itambuto guno hari, anything in terms of quality of God, right? They don't consider it to be anything. And that is offensive. So I would consider them to be not impersonalists. Impersonalists are a pretty educated category of transcendentalists. They're Mayavadis, atheists and Mayavadis. Yes. Okay.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I have another question. My question is, we read from the scriptures that it's a little different topic from what's been discussed today, but we read from the scriptures that during the reign of Sri Ram, the whole world was peaceful. We also read that when the Lord Chaitanya appeared, the whole world was in place of the holy names of the Lord. In the Bible, we read that there was a flood which is named after Noah, that is the whole world was flooded. Now I'm wondering whether these statements actually refer to the entire Earth planet or their limited world, which they considered the world. And the reason I'm asking this question is because in our history, there hasn't been a very heinous century as the 15th century. And the 15th century is when the Lord Chaitanya appeared. Yet it is this same period that the whole world were trading in slave trade, making human beings like animals, treating humans like animals. And this was the very time that Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and the associates had appeared, performing Sankirtan, supposedly touching the hearts of each and every one. Yet there were these demons acting these unthinkable things to their fellow human beings. So my question is, how do we really understand when the scriptures say the whole world to refer to the entire Earth planet, or it referred to their limited purview of understanding of the world?
I mean, when Lord Krishna was on the planet Earth, and Bhumi Devi was very satisfied because he felt that everything was being purified that was on her body. I'll give you the example from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when Krishna departed, she was burdened. She felt the whole burden upon her because she said that everything by Krishna's being on the earth planet was made lighter for me because of the effect of Krishna's lotus feet touching the earth planet in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. When the advent of Kali and the Kali Raj, the King Kali, was trying to persecute the bull, and Mother Earth came in the form of a cow and he started crying. And she said, now that my Lord has gone, I feel the weight of the sins of all the rascals upon me, whereas it was being purified when the Lord was here. So the other aspect is also Vasudev Datta saying in Chaitanya Charitamrita that my dear Lord, let everyone else be liberated and I stay here and I'll take upon me their sins. And the third aspect, the third pastime is also Prahlad Maharaj saying, why do I want to go back home, back to Godhead when so many people are here? So in terms of Lord Chaitanya relating to Vasudev Datta, who is an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj, and he said, why do you have to suffer so that everyone is liberated? Just by your very desire, I will make sure that everyone is liberated. Right? And so these are examples that actually by the desire of the devotee, if he so desires, the Krishna will accomplish his desire to actually liberate them. So I would say that when the planet Earth is sanctified by the lotus feet of Krishna or one of his incarnations, everyone is liberated. Everyone is liberated. So that is not an exaggeration. That is a very clear statement. And consequently, you may look at it another way also, Sahadev, is all the sufferings is also because, just like sometimes one of my friends once said to me, as one devotee was doing service every day, was waking the deep in the morning, and then he had his legs, intense diabetes, and it had to be removed, and so on and so forth. And then devotees were asking this very senior Vaishnava, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? He was so nice, waking the deity every day. And then this very senior Vaishnava, he said Krishna was very kind to him. Krishna accelerated the last remnants of sinful reactions so he can go back on back to Godhead. So another way to look at it is, if Krishna wants to liberate us, right, he may sometimes put some category of us into deep trouble. And then he may liberate us then, because Yeshotantagata Papam, he acting in a way that our sinful reactions are completely eradicated and we are freed, therefore, from dualities of delusion. Now, this thing has to be understood in the context of why do you have to chant Hare Krishna at the end? Because when we are killed or we die at the end, and we chant Hare Krishna, there is no opportunity to chant the holy name of Krishna in offensive mood. So therefore, if we chant the holy, just like Ajamil, if we chant the last word we take, all right, like we chant Hare Krishna today, right, Sahadev, and then tomorrow we do offenses. We're inattentive to chanting, we criticize devotees, we do this, we do that. So we are daily taking elephant bath. We're chanting, we're getting purified, and we do again elephant bath tomorrow. We're chanting, we get purified, and again we're doing elephant bath tomorrow. But say what happens tomorrow, we go to bed and we are killed. We die. Then that's why it says, when the last chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is very auspicious and important, because we are not given opportunity to make offenses. So therefore, we clear all our sinful activities. We are told to exit, and then we are liberated. So therefore, chanting Hare Krishna at the last moment is very important. So you can also take it and combine this understanding like that. So Krishna wants to liberate everyone, so he may cause some suffering, and then liberated. Why not? When it says he liberates the whole universe, he does liberate the whole universe. Because Krishna's appearance is not a small thing.
Well,
do you agree with my view on this?
yeah, I do. I know that definitely whatever the scriptures say is no exaggeration, but it was difficult for me to understand how simultaneously the supreme good is here, and that is the time people become so demonic, enslaving people in the 15th century. It was a very terrible century. But your explanation makes a lot of sense.
It's also considered offensive. It is an offense to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. It's not imagination. You have to be very careful. It is very, very powerful. This one chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and may not give an opportunity to do more aparad. Therefore, it will be like Namabhas, and Namabhas gives liberation. Right?
Yeah.
If you're chanting in the clearing stage and we're not given opportunity to do more offenses, it's like Namabhas. We cleared all our sins. But what happens is we go back to doing every day. And therefore, when we become proactively purified by chanting, carefully avoiding their sins, then we reach the platform of Nama-Hash, right, where the holy name of the Lord is appearing in a shadow form. It is enough to give us liberation, but it does not give us pure love of God. So Prabhupada at one point explains in one purport that liberation is fairly easy. Prabhupada says that all that we have to do is have no resultant sinful actions left. If we have no sin left, then that means that we have nothing to compose our next birth, because it is pious and sinful acts that give us our body. But we have none of it left. Basically, one of my teachers once said that if you have no pious or sinful credit left, then technically you should just disappear. We should just disintegrate and disappear, because we don't do that. We don't disappear, because there is one thing is pious and sinful acts, and the other thing is the laws of nature. Even in the case of Srila Prabhupada, his body didn't just disappear, right? It follows the rules and the laws of material nature. And we see Prabhupada's getting old because the laws of material nature will act. But Prabhupada had no sinful actions left. So technically he should just go, right? But it doesn't happen. I just think all of it in an integrated way. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
So we can stop here if you don't have any questions.
Yeah, we can stop here. I just wanted to say that your answer to Madhavan Prabhu's question about the impersonalism, the little I know about the two major religions we have in the world, Christianity and Islam, they are both personalists. The only problem is that they believe that even though God is a person, we are too sinful to see him. So
do they?
Yes.
Okay.
They believe that God is a person, but it's so pure that impure souls cannot see him. So for us as human beings, impure, we cannot see him. And that is why it is not so easy for them to accept any image of God like we have Krishna. They will not accept because they feel that we are sinful, we cannot see him. But they believe that God is a person. And that is why they address God as Father. That's just what I know about those two religions.
I was under the impression that the other one does not. Because whenever we talk to them about God having ears, this and that, they say definitely no way. No way. So anyway, maybe you have more knowledge about this. I don't study those religions.
Okay, yeah, thank you. If no one has something else to say, we may bring this to a close. Does someone have something to say or share? Well, we thank you so much, His Grace Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your love and wisdom with us as always. And we hope one of these days we meet in person. We haven't met in person for such a long time.
Oh, we shall.
Yeah, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're working on something.
I'm going to be in India in August.
Oh,
okay.
month.
I'm going to be teaching there. So if you're there, we meet. If anyone there, they can meet me. I'll be in Vrindavan for a month. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's good to know. So, dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute. And we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our great speaker, His Grace ADVAITA Krishna Prabhu. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa paribhasya saprasambhidyevacha chitana pavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Ki jai. All glories to His Grace ADVAITA Krishna Prabhu ki jai. all glorious assembled Vaishnavi devotees. Hare Krishna.